Alright guys, I cut the radio off real quick. So we, YouTube don't like copywritten music. We pulled the tranny, and first thing we inspected was the throttle bearing. As you can see in here.
Within the clutch.
Throttle bearing is good, and then we observed the clutch. Well, you can see it's got some wear on it, which is premature considering this is a clutch less than a week old. And flip it over, you can see all these gouges behind the tensioner springs. All four of them are like that, just chewed all to pieces. Well, that's about the same time my jaw dropped and I crawled underneath the car to look up. And there it was, on the flywheel. Flywheel bolts. That one is just chewed to pieces. The rest of them are okay. Every one of them was loose.
Except for one.
One was still kind of in there. But all five of them, the other five I should say, well no, let's see, yeah, five, were loose. One was still in there, which is the one that's still in there now. We're just going to retort the shit out of it, because we put the new bearing in it, which I hope it didn't ruin. It should be okay. But all five bolts were, one of them, like I said, the one I showed you, this one, it was almost completely backed out, and I have no idea how it didn't stress that bolt and even put a fracture in it. I mean, it didn't even break anything. That just shows you how strong these bolts are. But it was gouging this one terribly. And like I said, the rest of them were somewhat okay. But I remember we swapped the flywheel, and I remember putting the new bushing. I remember putting that new bearing. I said bushing, I meant bearing. I remember tapping this new bearing in. I never remember touching the flywheel bolts. I was 75% sure Jesse tightened those down. Looking back, I kind of don't remember anybody tightening them down. Yeah, Jesse's on the phone. Focus camera, there he is. He's walking around talking on the phone. But yeah, five of them were loose. One of them was still kind of tight. So, we were expecting worse, but halfway through the teardown, we got to thinking our Tyler, our brother-in-law, had a DA Integra. The clutch was going out in it, and he kept driving it. He had just bought it. I'll give him. It wasn't his fault. The clutch was worn out when Daddy bought the car, and he bought it when he got rid of his Miata, and then he was driving it around, and all it was doing was slipping, and it was kind of hard to change gears, and the transmission itself actually went bad. And it wasn't in the clutch's fault, it was the transmission going out. And it was a straight drive. Well, we just happened to have another B-Series transmission that went in it. And that got me worried that the entire transmission went bad. But it didn't. I'm assuming the transmission's okay. If you grab the pilot shaft of the transmission right here, there's no play, there's no wiggle. No weird noises, just gear noises, so... we're gonna put the flywheel bolts. I have another one. I have this Master Pro box for wheel bearings, which is slam full of nothing but Honda bolts, and then this weird fastener. All of these are Honda bolts, and it's not all lug nuts. If you look in there, it is just, except for that one that just took off. Tire box, nothing but Honda bolts. So I had torque flywheel bolts already out, ready to go. So
I found a socket in the dirt outside.
I fell off David's car. So we're gonna put new bolts in it, torque the crap out of these things, and then we're gonna use the good torque wrench. Let me show you. This one is old school. By that I mean it's not at all. It's a performance tool. It's a dial. You dial it in. Right there, it has all the numbers and measurements. Yep, not going to use that one. And you're asking, what? Why not? Because right here is an antique torque wrench. Look at this. This sucker is old. It's not super old, but it's pretty old because it's still got metal on everything. The handle's a little plasticky, but you know, metal. And this uses a it's almost like a stress type deal, and so as you are torquing on something, it turns this little thing in there, and then the little dial moves out according to how much pressure you're putting on it. So I like this one. I've put lots and lots and lots of Honda motors together with this bad boy right here, so I like this one.
One badass Honda we put together with this bad boy right here.
Yeah, hold on, show them that again.
This bad boy Craftsman wrench.
Yeah, one Honda floating around there in the United States we half-assed, but this one,
The guy.
yes, but this one right here, this is one of my favorite tools ever. This old school torque wrench. So we're gonna torque it with our vintage torque wrench. But not yet. First, we're gonna put all the bolts in there. But we're gonna put this clutch back in there. It wore it a little bit, but not bad. It's still good.
I thought we put a new throttle bearing in, huh?
Yeah, I guess Jesse's still determined to put a new throttle bearing in it, even though this one's fine.
But that will go out in about a month.
Sure it will.
What do you think?
Fuck, I'd put it back together. We know the problem. It wasn't an issue. Throttle bearing wasn't making noise, but it's your call because it's your car.
I'm ready to drop this motherfucker.
All right. Well, that's what I thought. So,
And finish this beer.
we get your flywheel bolts. Get your flywheel bolts, and we will.
Show them the fucked up one.
Yeah, I showed him the one that got
Anybody want it? 5 cents.
chewed out.
It's still good.
Yeah. So, we'll put the new ones in there. And then we'll cut back to you here after we get the transmission back in. And what was I gonna say? It's the transmission back in, and I'll cut to. Oh, and I'm gonna stop the camera here, but I'll come back when we get the transmission back on this engine, and then we'll fire it up and see if it moves. So stay tuned, and we'll be back with some more awesomer stuff here after we figure out this ordeal and get it back together. So. Torque your flywheel bolts. Torque them. Torque them good. Torque them. Torque them with a wrench.
Torque!
Torque. Torque. I drive a Chevy.
You know what torque sounds like? Dork. Torque, dork.
That's a Power Stroke joke.
Torque flywheel bolt.
Alright. Alright. Well, the car is in there. Or the motor's back together with new flywheel bolts, and we'll pass the camera to Jesse right here.
Alright, I'm gonna try to drive around. Oh, I can hold this thing at the same time. Alright.
Just don't drop the camera.
I'm trying not to.
Tell him how it goes.
Alright. Get this thing on out of this driveway and we're good to go. Alright. My filming might not be the best. I'm going at 5 speed and trying to hold this camera. Here we go. It's gonna hold it like this. The car's going pretty good. This is going actually pretty good right now. Rolling without making any noises. I'm in 3rd gear, no problem. 3rd gear running. I don't know how fast I'm running because I forgot to hook my speedometer up, as you can tell. Well, we'll go down 221 a little bit, turn back around, see how it's going to do. Head on back down. Jay can have this thing. Finish talking. Alright, let me sit you down for just a second so I can buckle my seatbelt up. running pretty good. Do say so myself. Change gears. Runs pretty good. We'll turn back at this red light right here. Throw it in the second gear. Ride out real quick. Circle back around to the neighborhood. Still no speedometer. And it's a bumpy ride. It's not running hot. Half tank of gas. Well, a little bit under half tank. Let this car turn. Sorry about all that. I'm not the best driver. Got 1 point on my license. But we get it done. Runs pretty good. If I do say so myself. Forward. I like my car. Hope all y'all do too. I've been looking for one for about 4 years. I finally found one. And I just had to do a lot of stuff to it. Which sucks. We're about to turn back into the house. So Jay can get this thing back. No power steering. Here's Jay.
Well, how's it run?
Pretty good.
Well, I guess that wraps it up then, right?
Yep, I told you to talk to me.
All right, well, now that problems are solved, we can, I've got to finish cleaning up the garage. I was doing that while y'all were out joyriding with Jesse. So, we finished cleaning up my boxes, and I can wait for the next car to get here, because if it ain't one thing, it's 10, and I'm waiting on the other Honda to show up. We've got another kid coming. Having problems with a old Honda EF hatchback, such as the one out there. I think the ignition switch is bad in it, so we're gonna fix him all up and get him on the road. So, need to get this, my bay,
Box of bolts there.
right down there.
Sweet.
Just gotta get my bay cleaned out so I can get another car in. Alright guys, well, since that's the update and we're all done with that car, I guess it's time to go. We'll put the hood back on it, and we'll get some more videos of it later on down the road. Stay tuned to find out if we sell it, keep it, or set it on fire and roll it down a hill. Thanks guys.